Welcome back to the Dirty Truth. I'm Benjamin Harris, and today we are continuing this video series where we will test different worldviews to see if there is just one that is rooted in science, follows the historical record, doesn't contradict itself, and doesn't require miracles. Specifically, we'll be testing the Christian Bible against the Big Bang, evolution, and the origins of life research, science, history, and reality. Each worldview will start with the assumption that it is true because only one can tell the real story. So let's jump right into video number 2. Does evidence support the singularity of the Big Bang or creation? So the theory. If the Big Bang is correct, we should be able to study the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world to determine if singularity is correct. If creation is correct and started from God, then we should be able to study the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world to determine an infinitely powerful God could have created everything without breaking the laws of physics. So what are we trying to prove? Are the Big Bang and creation theories in opposition with each other? Which theories agrees with science? Which theories require miracles? And which theories have contradictions? So let's start off with some definitions. What is a contradiction? A contradiction is a combination of statements, ideas, or features of a situation that are opposed to one another. Person, thing, or situation in which inconsistent elements are present, the statement of a position opposite to one already made. So, what is science? Science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. So, to be scientific, if you say something is scientific, that means you've come up with a theory and then you've done some kind of experiment and observation, you've collected data, and then you've tested your theory against the data that you've collected. If your theory agrees with the data, then it's scientific. If it doesn't agree with the data, then it's not scientific. So, what is infinite? Infinity is the idea of something that has no end. In our world, we don't have anything like it. So, don't think of it like trying to get there because you can't. That just hurts your brain. Just think of endless or boundless. If there's no reason something should stop, then it's infinite. Infinity is not getting larger. It's already fully formed. So it's not a real number. It's an idea. It's an idea of something without an end or without a beginning, and therefore infinity cannot be measured. Unless you're Chuck Norris because he counted to infinity twice. So, what is a miracle? Miracle. A miracle is a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. So if you're saying something happened, but you can't prove it by using the natural and scientific laws, then it's a miracle. It just violates all the laws. What does eternal mean? Eternal means lasting or extending forever, without end or beginning. All right, so let's do some fun facts in physics. Let's start with Boyle's law. Boyle's law states that pressure and volume are inversely related. As one decreases, the other increases. Density and volume are also inversely proportional to each other. Mass and volume are not the same. Thus, we can say that for a fixed mass, when density increases, volume decreases, and when volume increases, density decreases. So as density increases, volume decreases, which means pressure increases. Pressure is directly related to gravity. Pressure surrounding a substance affects its specific gravity. Thus, the pressure gradient is proportional to the local gravitational force. An increase in the mass of a cloud increases both the gravity and the pressure, but the force of gravity increases more since it is proportional to the mass squared. Right? So density is directly proportional to mass and inversely proportional to volume. Thus, as the density increases, the volume or the mass, as density increases, the mass increases and the volume decreases. The law of thermodynamics states that as temperature increases, the density of a substance decreases, and as the temperature decreases, the density of a subject increases. So as it gets hot, the density decreases. As it cools off, the density increases. Temperature is inversely related to density. So it is true to say that when density increases, mass increases, causing pressure and gravity to increase, and temperature and volume to decrease. So that's a true statement. All right. So when we look at the universe, we think that it's finely tuned. So what does this mean? The universe is characterized as finely tuned because the occurrence of life in the universe is very sensitive to the values of certain fundamental physical constraints, and the other values differ from the observed ones are, for some reason, improbable. This apparent near perfect balance might be a consequence of something called fine tuning, a process in physics where the features of a system necessarily match or cancel out with such precision. The two standard explanations of the fine tuning are theism and the multiverse hypothesis. So physics recognizes that there's two standard explanations. Either they use theism or they use the multiverse hypothesis. So what is theism? Theism is the belief in the existence of a god or gods, especially belief in one God as creator of the universe, intervening in it and sustaining a personal relationship to his creatures. So, what is the multiverse hypothesis or theory? It suggests that multi universes exist, comprising everything that exists, including space, time, matter, energy, information, and the physical laws and constraints that describe them. The multiverse is a theoretical framework in modern cosmology and high energy physics. It suggests that our universe may not be the only one and that there may be other universes distantly separated from ours. The multiverse theory describes all of existence as a collection of multiple universes that exist in parallel in higher dimension or other regions of space beyond our own observational cosmos. So, by very definition, if it's beyond our own observational cosmos, we're never going to be able to prove it. So this is always just going to be a theoretical theory. All right. So with the two theories, we're going to start with the Bible. So creation from the very beginning, according to the Bible, which is the inspired written word of God. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through 5. We're going to go to the first 4 days. This is day 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Verse 6 through 8. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 9 through 13. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and morning were the third day. Verse 14 through 19. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And God made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Now let us begin from the very beginning according to the Big Bang by defining what a singularity is according to science. So, what is a singularity and a black hole according to science? Gravitational singularities are mainly considered in the context of general relativity, where density will become infinite at the center of a black hole without corrections from quantum mechanics, and within astrophysics and cosmology as the earliest state of the universe during the Big Bang. A black hole is a region of space where gravity is so strong that nothing can escape, not even light. According to some theories, a black hole may contain a singularity at its center where space and time end. However, some scientists argue that singularities are not real physical objects, but rather the result of applying flawed theories to extreme situations. Singularities are an expression for mathematics that breaks down and can't be described with ordinary physics, according to cosmologist Dean H. Hance. Now, this was written. This was quoted by Professor Torsten Brigham, uh, and this was in Five Myths About the Big Bang by Ellis Jorston in Science Nordic in March 20 or on March 22nd, 2021. The whole universe was packed together in an infinitely small point. Then it exploded, and the entire mass that made up the universe was sent out into space. An astrophysicist would tell you that everything about that statement is wrong. That's not at all how we should think about the Big Bang, says Brigham, who is a professor and works with cosmology and astroparticle physics at the University of Oslo. He goes on to say, the universe today is a little bigger than it was yesterday, and it's even a little bigger still than it was a million years ago. The Big Bang Theory involves extrapolating this back in time. Then you need a theory for that, and that's the general theory of relativity. If, he says, if I extrapolate all the way back, the universe gets smaller and smaller, and it gets denser and denser, and warmer. Finally, you get to a point where it's really small, really hot, and dense. That's actually the Big Bang Theory, that the universe started in such a condition. That's where you really have to stop, says Brigham. If you run the general relativity theory all the way back, you reach a point of infinitely high density and heat where the size is zero. That's pure mathematical extrapolation beyond what the theory actually allowed, Brigham says. You then come to a point where the energy density and temperatures are so high that we no longer have physical theories to describe them. He says that physicists need a different theory, and there are people who are researching just that. This is Brigham's summation. So, what do we need? What do we need in order to describe such an extreme condition? That's where we enter an area where you need a theory that can combine gravity and quantum theory. No one's been able to formulate it yet, but the expectation is precisely that the quantum gravity theory would not lead to the conclusion that everything goes back to one point, Brigham says. So, what happened at this time, the earliest point in the history of the universe is still hidden from us, at least so far. So, observation number one. If the Bible is correct, then God has infinite power. Because God has infinite power, all things in existence need God so they can exist. This does not break any laws of physics. It simply means that all reactions that require energy to exist, to include the strong and weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, and the gravitational force, must use power from the infinite source that is God. This also means God is in everything in existence. So, what other Bible verses back up this idea? Here are three of many that make this point, followed by God talking to Job. So, Hebrews 11, chapter 11, verse 3. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Or as the Big Bang says, something out of nothing. Psalms chapter 33, verse 6. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. Genesis 2, chapter 2, verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Now we're going to talk about Psalms 33, 6 and Genesis 2, 7 in the next video as well. We'll go into more depth on that when we're talking about evolution. Now, what did God and Job talk about? Or rather, what did God say to Job? It's Job 38, 1 through 7. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is it that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Grind up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstones thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the songs of God shouted for joy. So here God's asking Job, where were you when I made all this? Because God's been there from the beginning. And the point is our knowledge and power is nothing compared to God because He's the creator of everything and He knows the beginning from the end. So the Big Bang. So now to continue this thought, if the Big Bang is correct, the universe started from a singularity. By science's own account, a singularity is a point where density will become infinite. This immediately contradicts the definition of infinite because infinitely, or to be infinite, doesn't get larger. It's already all of whatever that thing is. So this means that the singularity cannot be the center of a black hole because finite material can be added to increase the mass and density of a singularity, meaning the singularity is not infinitely dense. The singularity is a contradiction because if another reason it's a contradiction because if it's infinitely dense, then it must also have infinitely zero volume because volume and density are inversely proportional. And by observation, we know the universe has volume. So the Bible tells a story where God is eternal, meaning without beginning or end, and then says God has infinite power, which is necessary to create all things. That's logically possible without a contradiction. Whereas the Big Bang singularity is not logically possible because it's a pure mathematical extrapolation beyond what the theory actually allows, according to Professor Brigham of Ulsa University. So it's logically possible to have God who's eternal and has infinite power. That's not a contradiction. But where the Big Bang and the singularity happens, the whole thing's not logical because it contradicts itself at every turn. So we need a new theory. Observation number 2. God is eternal and therefore can create the universe with his infinite power. So like I said, it's not a contradiction to say God is eternal and has infinite power because the definition of infinite is endless and boundless and means forever. It is a contradiction for the singularity to be infinitely dense and expand. You can't have all of the density because then you would have all of the zero volume. It would be infinitely zero volume, but then you can't also expand. The act of expansion means the singularity cannot be infinitely dense. This is another demonstration of how the theoretical theory of singularity is wrong. Observation number 3. Density is the ratio of mass to volume. Temperature affects density because as temperature increases, the particles of a substance move faster and occupy more space, thus reducing the density. Conversely, as temperatures decrease, particles move slower and occupy less space, thus increasing the density. So once again, the Big Bang is breaking physics laws, and this time it's the laws of thermodynamics. This law proves the singularity cannot be infinitely dense and infinitely hot, because science is only based on evidence gained from observation and experimentation. The theoretical concept of a singularity is not scientific. As Professor Brigham says, what do we need in order to describe such an extreme condition? Because remember before he said it's based on bad science, right? So what do we need? That This is where we enter an area where you need a theory that combines gravity and quantum theory, and no one's been able to formulate it yet. The expectation is precisely that the quantum gravity theory will not lead to the conclusion that everything goes back to one point. So they're coming up. They're trying to come up with theories right now uh, that throw the singularity out. Observation number 4. Only God gives purpose to the universe. This is evident in the fine tuning of the universe. So from fine tuning, Miriam Frankel, FQXI Foundational Questions Institute, on January in January of 2022. This is what it says. Research on fine tuning involves investigating what ingredients are actually necessary for life to evolve. For example, one claim is that the masses of subatomic particles are precisely tuned to allow atoms to remain stable, an essential condition for the chemistry of life. Physicists have also discovered evidence of fine tuning to some extent in all 4 fundamental forces of nature: the electromagnetic force, gravity, and the strong and weak nuclear forces that affect subatomic particles. If these had slightly different strengths, they have argued stars could not have formed. Stars are the factories that produce heavy elements in the universe, including carbon, and since life, at least as we know it, is based on carbon, without stars, any universe would be bereft of organic life. Now, this is where science contradicts itself because it says theism is one of 2 standard explanations of the fine tuning. And theism says God created everything, therefore, God does not need for stars to generate carbon. This does not mean that stars do not do what science says it does. It just means that God does not require stars to have created, because the order of creation was day one. On day one, He created the heavens, the earth, and light. On day 2 was the firmament. On day 3, dry land, grass, and fruit trees. And then on day 4 was the sun, moon, and stars. So He didn't need the sun. He didn't need the stars to create. He created them. And we'll talk about days 5 through 7 of creation in video number 3. So I would argue then that because science provides 2 starting points, either God said, which is theism, and it was, or the Big Bang singularity, and only one doesn't contradict itself or break any laws of physics, that only one is correct. That's God said, and it was so. So what does the evidence show? For creation, the creation of everything by an infinitely powerful God does not break the laws of physics. Now, when we say God is in control of everything, this complements his infinite power because every particle in the universe needs some form of power to exist. So the definition of infinite is endless and boundless. So if the source of God, the source of power is God, then He is in total control. And when we say when God created man, which we'll discuss in video 3, He gave him dominion over certain aspects of His creation. So man can freely manipulate this power and understand it, but not create or destroy it, because if God has infinite power, then He has all the power. If the Bible is the true historical document, then we know the universe started from and God said. The Big Bang. The singularity cannot be true because it violates the laws of physics and it contradicts itself. The evidence shows that for the Big Bang to start at a singularity will require a miracle and is therefore based on blind faith. Science disagrees with the singularity because it violates the laws of physics and suggests, as Professor Brigham says, we need a new theory that combines gravity and quantum theory, and the expectation is precisely that the quantum gravity theory will not lead to the conclusion that everything goes back to one point. So, what's the conclusion? The Christian creation account in the Bible does not contradict itself or break any laws of physics and therefore can be true without requiring a miracle. The Big Bang singularity theory does contradict itself and break laws of physics and therefore cannot be true without the need of miracle. So, science infers the need of God. This demonstrates the Big Bang theory has to be taken on blind faith because it is not based on reason, logic, or evidence, and it contradicts the truth and facts found in reality. According to Professor Brigham, at the earliest point in the history of the universe, science says this is still hidden from us, at least for now. The conclusion for the fine tuning. If the Bible is a true historical document, then the universe, which means single spoken verse, started from God said. This is also evident because of how incredibly fine tuned the universe is. This is in line with science, which says there are two standard explanations of the fine tuning, either theism or the multiverse hypothesis. Science tries to explain away the fine tuning by saying there are multiple universes and at the same time cannot yet explain the one that we're in. Science says it ultimately needs new theories to explain our reality because right now science would have to invoke miracles for the theories to work, while at the same time says theism, which does not need miracles, does not contradict itself, does not violate the laws of physics, and explains the fine tuning we see, is also a standard explanation. So science accepts and verifies that God does in fact exist because theism by definition is belief in the existence of a God or gods, especially belief in one God as creator of the universe, where he's intervening in it and sustaining a personal relationship to his creatures. So what does the evidence show? The evidence shows that religion or God, the Bible, is correct. All of the evidence points to God. It shows that the Big Bang, as far as starting from a singularity, cannot be correct. So stay tuned for video number 3, where we will discuss, does science support evolution or creation? And specifically for the evolution here, we're going to start, but just like with this video, you got to start somewhere. So you got to start at the beginning. This is going to be the origins of life. So if evolution is correct, we should be able to study the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world to determine the origins of life and that they're purely a chain of chemical reactions acting by chance. If creation is correct, we should be able to study the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world to determine the origins of life are from an eternal, all powerful mind. So video number 3 will be entertaining in light of the recent Harvard roundtable featuring Dr. James Tour and Dr. Lee Cronin. Dr. Lee Cronin is one of the top uh, origins of life researchers who is also an atheist. And Dr. James Tour, he's done a bunch of videos on abiogenesis. Both of them are very intelligent, but Dr. Tour is a creationist, and he doesn't bring God into his science arguments, and he's got some fantastic arguments that they kind of discussed at the Harvard roundtable a few days ago. So I've hope, and we're going to talk about that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and leave some comments. And have a great day, and may God bless you all.